on this. And cool. Hey guys, welcome today to Masters in E-Commerce for Entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Andrew Strauss. I'm here with Armando Perez of PerezCarreno.com. He is he's a Facebook ads coach. He's a business growth coach. He was a CTO, lead gen expert. He also is a published author. I'm not going to do the Spanish version of it, but it's ads on Facebook, the practical guide on there. He does tons of e-commerce stuff, and he helps entrepreneurs basically overcome common barriers and mistakes and getting them to get those clients. And today we're lucky to have Armando on our call, and we're going to go through a couple different things, or one thing that we're going to talk about in either, and we'll get to that. But Armando, let the folks know a little bit more about you, if I missed things on that side of things.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. You're on the spot. I think you covered many of the topics. We do a lot of automation stuff and some AI, but I think the introduction you made quite covers what we do.
Great. Awesome. Yeah. So today, Armando and I, we're going to talk about, there's couple things that we were going to talk about. One is, sort of on the mistakes people make with Facebook ads. And then there's one little thing is why you should stay away from the little blue button. Mm-hmm. And, this is all going to be sort of related towards e-commerce and on that side of things. So Armando, tell me, what you see with all the clients that you're dealing with, the issues that people make when running Facebook ads.
Well, Andrew, one of the main issues is that people don't realize that they're targeting a very broad audience. There's more than 2 billion people using Facebook, and that number continues rising. And sometimes you see, and we'll get to the little blue button, but sometimes you'll see the button and you'll be like, okay, I want to reach more people, just like the platform says. But then sometimes you don't take in account that you can reach millions of people. So what I've seen, the mistake that I most often see is that people do a very broad audience and they don't focus on one particular client persona. Especially if they don't have an advertising background or they haven't talked with an agency about it. That happens a lot. They think, oh, well, my product can be bought by anyone. And they don't stop to think that really it's maybe just women or just men or a woman from 20 to 25 who lives in San Francisco in a certain zip code who has interests in certain things. So once the person steps back a little and takes just one product and thinks, who can buy this product? Who would be my ideal customer? Then they can create ads that target those people specifically, and they'll save quite a bit of money.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine that. I think that's one issue that people do seem to have, is that they think their product's for everything. And they're like, oh yeah, it works for everybody. But they don't sit back and think, okay, who is my core customer, right? And I think that's a challenge that people have, and I don't know how they figure that stuff out. Like in your coaching practices, I mean, like, how do you get people to sort of like pull back what they say, the onion, right? And get to that core piece?
That's an interesting question, Andrew. There's a thing we do, even in our little talks where we're just telling or helping entrepreneurs or business owners, like in the local library and incubators, and we just helping them learn what's out there. Even in those talks that are very non-technical, we have a very nice exercise that people can do where they first have to choose one product and forget about everything else. Just focus on one product, and then think, who buys this? And then just think of one possible person, and they can think about their client history and think, okay, who was a good customer? And apart from that, then they can do an exercise that we run through where they create a buyer persona. And this is a very known term in the advertising industry, but most people don't know about it. And it's simply creating a paragraph where you say, well, this is James, who is 22 years old who studied architecture in a public college, and his hobbies are music and art, and he loves using AutoCAD, and he has 2 kids and he's married, etc. So it's a little
Right.
paragraph
Right.
that sometimes you don't take the time to think about it, but once you have it in front of you, then it's very simple to imagine James or Erica or whoever and create an ad that speaks to them directly.
Right.
So
Right.
it's very hard for us as humans to create something that will tailor to everyone's needs at the same time, because you can't. We're all very, very different. So using this
Right.
exercise, people can focus first on a product, and then, as you said, peeling off the layers, they'll get one type of customer for that product, another type of customer. So maybe for the same product, they'll figure out that the hand cream or the face cream they have, yes, it can be used by a woman in her 50s or 60s and a girl in her 18, 20 years of age. But in reality, when you're going to speak to them, even if you think about how you would do it in real life, you wouldn't sell them the same way. You would take a totally different approach with
Right.
the woman in her 50s, 60s than with the younger one, because they need the same cream, but maybe for different reasons. So that's the sort of exercise we do, and it helps people a lot understand that they're being very broad, and that
Right.
essentially helps them have a very better efficiency with their advertising.
Right. And do you find that products that solve problems tend to be better at, for selling, or is it just like you have red shoes and, I mean, what do you think in terms of that messaging or that kind of a thing when you're selling a product?
Well, in reality, Andrew, the thing with problems is
Right.
that we always have a problem when you take it
Right.
down to the need, and that's part of the exercise where we ask very specific questions to deep dive into what their actual problem is. So perhaps they say, hey, I want a car. And that's just the need, just the basic thing. And then we tell them, okay, good, they want a car. Do they want any car? And it's like, no, okay, perhaps I want a truck with 4x4 and airbags. Okay, let's dig deeper. Now that you know that, why do they want that? Okay, perhaps they want this truck because they don't want to get stuck in the river. And you're okay. So we're talking about people who like off-roading and going outdoors and doing that stuff. So that's a real fear for them, getting stuck
Right.
in the middle of the river, right?
Right.
So once you start doing those questions in the simple exercise, then you start to see, oh, okay. So it's not that they just need a car or want a car. It's what type
Right.
of car, and then why they want it. And once you know that, then all the messaging that you use for the images, for the videos, for the actual title will be around that. And that way the right people, when they see it, they'll be, oh, that's exactly what I need.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way of doing it. I mean, again, it's like peeling that onion back, right? It's like, oh, what is they start, and you start with that and you keep going down and down and down kind of stuff. So it's interesting. So I know that you work both in Latin America and the US. How is that different? Like, so if you were solely just a US based product, but you wanted to sell into those Latin markets, how is that messaging different? How is the problem different? Is it similar? Like, how do you deal with that type of stuff?
It's a good question. Really, the process is essentially the same. But what we really stress to people is you have to talk with a native or someone who has 100% coverage of both languages before you run anything. Why? Because we see too many products, even products in stores with labels that have a bad translation on them. And that doesn't look good either way. If it's a Mexican product coming to the United States, or if it's an American product going to Mexico or to South America, it looks bad on the company. And if we're talking about that, imagine if you're looking at the ads. So if people are looking for a product that solves their needs and the ad sort of covers it, but then they see a bad translation, that speaks bad about your company, because it means you didn't take the time to even show it to one actual person who knows the language and would tell you, okay, that word could work, but it's really not what it seems to mean, right?
Right.
So that happens a lot, because there are words, especially in Spanish, there are a lot of words that you can use in like 6 different connotations. And it's the same word. You don't even have to change the accent, just the same word, and it means 5 different things depending on the context. So that sort of things you have to look out for. And the other thing is pricing. Pricing will be different if you're selling a product in the States versus in a country in Latin America, because some of those countries have the currency exchange can sometimes affect things. And it's just the way you organize the pricing. It may cost the same thing. It's just the way you organize it, so that, and there's actual studies on this, if you can show them the price in their currency, they're about 95% more likely to buy than if it's in a foreign currency. Because when they see that, it's okay, this is what it costs. When they see something they have to transform, then it, first of all, it takes one more step, and second of all, especially if they have a high exchange rate, it's like, oh, so it's 20 times more than that.
Right. Yeah. So the way to really do it is like, obviously not the changing of the page, for the from Spanish to from Spanish, say Mexico, to US dollars. It's just kind of, it just needs to display automatically what the price is, so they'll kind of know what the exchange rate's going to be and everything on that.
Yes.
So with your clients, do you have many that sell on both cross-border type stuff? I mean, and is the product, I guess, if it solves a certain problem, I guess they'll be more in tune to buying that. But is there things where there are things that there's one product, a type of product that sells better in one inside of the country than the other?
Well, as I'm sure you're aware, the things that we buy and sell in America are very, very similar, right? And the experience buying and selling is very similar. What I've seen deters people sometimes from the ultimate purchase is payment options. So the lines are being blurred, and you know this, especially with the platform you're doing, between locations, because I can now just Google something and I see a product I like you mentioned, red shoes. Okay, nice. So I'm not really thinking, where's that store located? It's in Oklahoma, it's in New York, it's in Texas. I don't really mind. It's something I want to buy, and I'll buy it. So that starts to happen cross borders as well, especially if you have a good shipping logistic system, right? But the thing is, payment methods in countries like Mexico, there are few people with access to credit cards. Fewer people with access to credit cards. So many of them are used to other payment methods, like going to the convenience store and paying there, or going to the bank and things like that, which are implemented quite well in those countries, where there's APIs and services that help businesses, like small e-commerce businesses or large e-commerce businesses, take payments, offline payments, in convenience stores that are located all around the country.
Right. Because I know, because the credit cards are pretty prevalent here in the U.S. and debit cards, but not so much in, say, Latin America and things like that. So it's a little bit more of a barrier to entry, or at least to buying something. So that is I guess something that one needs to think about when they're doing that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, and the good thing is, and we looked for a long time, and then we found last year we finally found a provider that does it, but I'm sure many others will come, is a way for American companies to offer those kind of payment options.
Mm.
So before, you had to rely on credit cards or maybe PayPal to do those kind of cross-border transactions. And when people didn't have credit cards, you were in trouble because they couldn't pay you. They had the cash in hand. They were like, where can I go and pay for it?
Right.
And then we found this company that does it, where you set up an account and they receive the funds for you. They have an API that connects to your store and everything. And then after a certain threshold, they just they wire the money to your bank account.
Okay.
So it's the same as PayPal, but it's made for offline payments specifically. So I think those types of solutions will help e-commerce thrive a lot more between different countries.
Right. The locality kind of thing. Like if you're buying, stuff in, say, Monterrey, Mexico, you want to pay in a local bank or that kind of currency, and then it processes it in Mexico and you buy from the US. And so that's a foreign current exchange kind of thing is handled there. So you lower rate. Interesting. So that's thing. In terms of the ads that you see, like when you're running these things, do you find video ads better performing than static ads?
It's funny you mentioned that. Most of the time I will say yes. Video ads get, apart from having very specific benefits that I'll mention, they are very good at converting people or keeping people interested. If you do a well-created video, and it doesn't have to have a massive production, and it's good if you hire someone to do it, but if you just want to use apps and do it yourself, you can. And if it says the right thing, and the volume is okay, and it has the words there, and if it covers what it's supposed to cover, then people will watch it. They'll sit and watch it, and they'll watch it on their phone, they'll watch it on the computer. And as we always say, if a picture is worth 1,000 words, well, the video is 24 or 30 pictures in a second. So you can tell a lot, and it captures people's attention. So we have seen it, but also the studies from Facebook have seen it, and many other companies have seen it. Usually the video ads will have a better engagement rate than the static ads, but it's not a rule, because it'll depend on the audience, and it depends on that niche where you're trying to reach people. And the time where we've seen that static ads work is when you do a mixture of both. So let's say you run a video of the 6 things you should know before starting your e-commerce store or whatever. So people are watching it, and then you run a second ad to those people who watched 75% of that video, which is a great thing to do, right? Because you warmed up those people. And that second ad you can do with just a static image and a call to action. And it works quite well because you already warmed them up with the video. So this time it's just no distractions, just this is what you need to know. Click here, and then you're on the chat bot, or you're on the lead ad, or whatever.
Right, because they're familiar with your product already. They got that, whatever. They watch 75% of that stuff. So there's no need for a video, because they're all like, I know what you guys do already. You don't need another video. Now, let me ask you on the side. So do you find differences on static or video conversions from Latin America to the US? I mean,
well, they say, and it's not just the countries, but the people. So there are studies that say that the Hispanic population consumes more video. So that's an interesting thing to note. And so yeah, if you're gonna go to the Hispanic market, both in the US, which is the second largest Hispanic population in the world, next to Mexico, before Spain. People don't know that. Then you have to consider these things, and if you can, then if your product can sell to the Hispanic demographic, then consider doing an ad also in Spanish, and just target it to Spanish speaking people, and it works because people will be more likely to convert where something speaks their language. And as I mentioned before, if possible, if you can show it in their currency, if it's outside of the United States, that's a good thing to know as well. And apart from that, it's good to know that the pricing for the ads is way different. So you'll get a way lower rate for your ads outside the United States most of the time, because there's less competition of people running the ads and because of the currency difference as well.
Right. Cool. Yeah, that was I was curious on that side of things, if that, made a difference on that side of things. So if you have a product and it can sell from both sides, then look towards selling it into the Spanish market or Hispanic market. I think it's a good way. I think people get so focused on just the US. There's a huge market outside the US.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yes.
a lot cheaper. And they're very used to e-commerce over there as well. So that's pretty awesome. So there was one thing I did want to ask you. So I know that we had we were talking about staying away from this little blue button. If you want to briefly go into that, that'd be awesome, because this is kind of a thing I think people do, but you hear right or wrong ways on things, and so maybe you can share with that.
Sure. There's the little blue button. For those that don't know about it, if you have a Facebook page, which you should, if you have a business and you want to promote it on Facebook, you should have a Facebook page. It's free. It's worth it. Just do it.
Right.
If you have a Facebook page, Facebook will try to remind you ever so often to boost your posts or boost your page. And it's a little blue button that you'll see all around Facebook, and it'll help you reach more people. And that's what they'll say. You'll put a post up and maybe it reached 500 people, and it'll say reach another 150,000 people in your area by clicking here. So who wouldn't want that, right? So you click it and it'll give you some options, and it's been getting better. Before, you would say never use it because the options were too limited, but now there are a few more specific targeting options, age, and then you get some of the more detailed demographics of behaviors and what phone they have and the location and things like that. So it's getting better, but in reality, I think the weakest point of the boost post is that when you use it, you don't have control over where you want to show your ad. And this is what most people don't know. And this is why it's one of the main issues when people run ads for the first time and they don't get results. They say, hey, I spent this amount of money and I don't see any results. What happened? Where did all the money go? I don't even see engagement and things like that. So what usually happens is that your ad, you expect it as a Facebook user to show on the Facebook timeline, right? The newsfeed. So you're thinking, okay, I'll make an ad. It'll have these dimensions. It'll have the text on top because that's how it's showing it to me. Sure. And it'll show in the newsfeed on the phone and the computer. That's what we think. But in reality, there's 13 different placements for the ads. So when you do that, you'll be showing it in the newsfeed, on computer and the mobile, and then you'll be showing it on Instagram and on Instagram stories, which is one of the biggest mistakes I see, because you're thinking, okay, this is my ad for Facebook, right? It's about like a horizontal thing. And suddenly someone, your future client, of course, is opening Instagram stories, is seeing all these wonderful videos, full screen vertical videos, and then your ad comes up between them and it's a square thing in the middle with the text overlaid on top, and it looks horrible. Right. So that's the things you don't want.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what happens. You'll see it on Instagram, you'll see it on stories, you'll see it on apps. So if someone built a free app and people are using it, and then you suddenly get an ad, that's where you'll be showing as well. Right. And then when someone gets a prize in an app, like, okay, watch this ad so you can get a free life, that's your ad will be there. Right. And then in between other videos on Facebook, on between other people's videos, which can be annoying sometimes. Right. After some other videos, inside articles. So there's 13 different placements, and that's what people don't consider. Right. And that's where a lot of the money that you're spending can go to.
Right.
So this is one of the issues we stress as well. This happened with Google ads before a lot. Right. people would say, okay, here's my campaign in Google Ads, and you're thinking it'll only be in search, but in reality, it was also showing in the display network, which is all the
Right.
banners around the internet.
Right.
And if
Right.
you didn't create it with that in mind, then it'll look very bad in those other placements, and you'll spend your money just diluted all around the place.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that's why we really stress that if you can stay away
Right.
from the button, just go to the ads manager, which anyone can
Right.
use. There's a lot of courses and materials online that'll give you a little walkthrough. Even Facebook gives you a little walkthrough,
Right.
and you can create it from there. You'll have sort of the same things. You'll just have more control, and you can decide to do whatever. You can do a lead ad that we talked about
Right.
earlier, where you get your client's number and email and whatever with a little form. You can create canvas ads. You can create video ads. You can create messenger bot ads, etc. You can do a lot of things, and that you can't do from the boost post. So that's sort of why we recommend going the other way.
Right, right, right. Awesome, awesome. Well, Armando, this was fantastic. I mean, there was so much stuff that we covered in a short period of time. I really want to ask you just like one other question. Like, what is a tool that you use that you find very helpful that other sellers could use to get them through their day?
Oh, there's a bunch, but I would say that for a lot of people, this tool has really helped. It's called Canva,
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
canva.com, and it's a free tool that virtually replaces Photoshop or Illustrator if you're just doing something quickly. It's
Right.
online, it's web-based, just go on there, and then you can just create your designs. There's a lot of templates. So for creating static ads, it's great, very simple to use, don't
Right.
cost you a thing, and then you'll download it when it's ready, post it, and that's it. And another would probably be Spark, Adobe Spark. It's
Spark.
from the
Okay.
guys at Adobe who do Photoshop and all that. They
Right.
have one tool that's similar to Canva, and then they have other tools for video and things like that. And
Okay.
they're also free, so I would
Okay.
say give those a try.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. So this is great. So if people want to get in touch with you, want to consult with you, want to head towards from the U.S. to Latin America,
Mhm.
what's the best way they can contact you and find out about you?
Well, that's a good question, Andrew. Thank you. They can go to perezcarreno.com. That's the main website in English. You can go to academiaads.com as well if you want to see more of the Hispanic side of things. And there's also a translation button in the bottom where you can see more information. And there's always a messenger bubble in the bottom where you can contact us directly or just send an email to info@perezcarreno.com and we'll gladly talk.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, Armando is great. I mean, he's he's very easy to reach out to. He's always there on and getting back to you. They've got a great service. So if you are looking to do things towards the Latin America market and also in the English market as well, Armando is tops in what he does. So and all these will be in our show notes. So we'll have all that kind of stuff there as well. But Armando, I really appreciate the time that you've taken out to come and share with our audience. And I look forward to talking with you again.
Perfect. I really appreciate it. Andrew, glad to be in the show.
Great. Thanks.